We are grateful to the Special Envoy Gary Peterson and Director of OCHA, Lisa Doughton, for their reports on the political and humanitarian situation in Syria. We continue to see no alternative to the advancement of the political settlement process in Syria, a process that is Syrian-led and Syrian-owned, with the assistance of the United Nations and strictly in line with Security Council Resolution 2254. In this context, we support your mediation efforts, Gare, your efforts to advance the Syrian settlement process in a manner that respects the principles of sovereignty, independence, unity, and territorial integrity of the Syrian Arab Republic, and without any external intervention. At the same time, we believe it is important for you to strictly adhere to the mandate which is enshrined in the relevant Council resolution, at the heart of which is facilitating intra-Syrian dialogue, including through the Constitutional Committee, as the optimal format for direct intra-Syrian dialogue. We believe firmly that all of the difficulties that have been arising in connection with resumption of work, with the will and in accounting for the interest of all Syrian stakeholders can be surmounted. The fact that technical aspects of the resumption of the full pace of the drafting commission's work, the fact that these issues remain unresolved, should not become a justification for any passivity. At the same time, we believe that principal decisions on the parameters for the conduct of further rounds of intra-Syrian consultations should be led by the Syrian people themselves. Against this backdrop, the situation remains fraught with tension. There's a persistent threat of military operations in the country's north. There is an ongoing illegal military presence of the United States and their allies in the Trans-Euphrates and Atanf. We remain alarmed at the smoldering nests of terrorism, first and foremost in Idlib. We are troubled by the intensification of Israeli airstrikes targeting Syria. Since the beginning of this year, there have been more than 10 such attacks, as a result of which twice the international Aleppo airport was disabled. This is an airport through which humanitarian assistance is delivered to the victims of the devastating earthquake. These kinds of military actions in violation of Syria's sovereignty and in violation of the sovereignty of neighboring Arab countries, and the absence of any reaction from UN leadership is very much alarming, and we condemn this. From positive news, we would note that the pace has swiftly of the natural process of Syria returning to the Arab family. With our assistance, there is an ongoing normalization of relations between Damascus and Ankara by leveraging the benefits from the Astana format. Alongside our partners in Astana, Iran and Turkey, we intend to continue to do everything possible to ensure that long-term normalization in Syria is achieved. Turning to humanitarian aspects of the situation in the country now. This, as we heard today, remains exceedingly difficult and it continues to deteriorate. What remain unsurmounted are the consequences and the fallout of the earthquake in the Syrian-Turkish border. We cannot but note that the growing needs and problems endured by ordinary Syrians throughout the country have not prevented Western donors from seeking to politicize the delivery of humanitarian assistance, and they have been using this as a tool of exerting pressure on Damascus, and they have also been undermining both the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Syria. In practice, Western assistance and assistance from the United Nations at the present moment is only reaching areas not under Damascus's control. Despite all of the machinations, the Western countries are not able to conceal this. The figures speak for themselves. OCHA's flash appeal for the earthquake has been a 97% financed, and the UN Traditional Humanitarian Plan for Syria, which has been designed to deliver assistance to government-held territories, is only 8% financed. At the same time, the United States, which has looted Syrian natural resources like their European partners, the U.S. seizes on every opportunity to assert that they will provide not a cent for post-conflict recovery in the country. They will not lift sanctions. They will not ease the isolation of Damascus until a political transition is set in motion. At the same time, HTS, which has been sheltered by the West, they have openly dismantling and undermining cross-line convoys in Idlib. They have been demanding bribes for access to those in need. And acting this way, they are challenging the international community in a council. We cannot tolerate the fact that, contrary to the consensus-based resolution of the Security Council, since August of 2021, only 10 convoys reached the de-escalation zone. And the most recent and only one this year occurred on 8 January. And moreover, there have been 3 missions for Tel Aviv. The situation seems as if the consent provided by Damascus for the UN to use 2 additional checkpoints, Bab as-Salam and Arai, in addition to Bab al-Have, whose UN mandate will expire on 10 July, essentially extinguished any enthusiasm from the United Nations to unblock deliveries through the line of contact. We wish to emphasize that if our Western colleagues at the Security Council continue to make it appear as if nothing is happening, and if they continue to disregard the fact that Security Council resolutions are being sabotaged by internationally recognized terrorists, we will draw the necessary conclusions from the situation that has unfolded in crafting our positions in the context of the forthcoming extension of the cross-border mechanism for July. This has long lost any potential to assist the situation, and it is not advancing humanitarian purposes at all. The tragic events in February clearly demonstrated this. Furthermore, before our very eyes, there are increasingly acute issues linked to the negative consequences of Western sanctions on international humanitarian activities in Syria. We urge the United Nations not to sweep this under the rug, but rather to provide a frank assessment of the situation. During the regular round of informal interactive dialogue on Syria yesterday, we heard a number of examples of direct impact of unilateral sanctions on the lives of ordinary civilians in Syria. So all of the assurances from the United States and their allies about the targeted nature of the sanctions and allegedly about the effective exemptions today sound particularly hypocritical. Colleagues, given the trends and facts that I have just listed, there is no doubt that we are nearing a moment of truth vis-a-vis issues of provision of humanitarian assistance in Syria. The double dealing by Western colleagues in their attempts to use humanitarian pressure as a tool to exert pressure on Damascus have become too clear for the United Nations leadership to continue to disregard this. It is time to call a spade without frank assessments and a genuine desire to help all Syrians in need from the Security Council. It would be pointless to continue to maintain the current parameters for the provision of humanitarian assistance in the Council. Our Western colleagues have the choice here. I now resume my duties as the President of the Security Council, and I give the floor to the members of the Security Council, and the first to take the floor is the representative of the United States.